Modern software development has shifted. The best engineers aren't relying on a single AI model anymore. They're stitching together workflows using OpenAI, Anthropic, and Meta. But connecting these different systems natively is a logistical headache. You juggle separate API keys, balance multiple billing accounts, and learn entirely distinct SDKs for every new provider you want to add. Because of this heavy integration overhead, most teams simply give up. They choose one ecosystem and lock their infrastructure into it entirely out of convenience. This creates a constant tension. You want the best model for each specific feature you build, but the friction of rewriting your code makes swapping out models on the fly nearly impossible. Attempting to build and maintain these multi-model applications from scratch becomes a structural liability. It drains engineering time and slows down a company's ability to innovate. OpenRouter steps in as a universal meta layer. It sits directly above this fragmented industry and handles the integration friction for you. The change is minimal. You don't have to rewrite your app or learn a new SDK. If you use the standard OpenAI format, simply swap the endpoint URL to OpenRouter's API address. With that single line, your app connects to over 300 models across 60 providers via one API key. You are no longer tied to one company's release schedule or pricing. You have the entire global AI marketplace at your disposal. To see how this operates, let's follow a single prompt leaving your application. When it arrives at OpenRouter's gateway, it enters a native 3-layer architecture. The first critical stop is the routing layer. Think of this as an intelligent traffic controller that analyzes the parameters of your request in milliseconds. Guide traffic with shortcuts. Appending :nitro routes your prompt to the provider with the highest tokens per second output. Swapping to :floor recalculates the path to the lowest cost provider for batch workloads. If a targeted provider unexpectedly goes down, OpenRouter intercepts the error. It immediately redirects your request to the next available provider hosting that exact same model. Your connection never drops, and your users never see an error message. The routing layer actively manages your traffic, taking unpredictable third-party APIs and turning them into a highly available, hyper-optimized utility. Once the path is set, our successfully routed prompt approaches the provider layer. This is the final destination where the third-party AI companies actually process your data. This hands-off processing introduces a significant exposure for businesses. The risk that these third-party providers will log your proprietary data and use it to train their future models. OpenRouter addresses this risk with a strict policy called zero data retention. Behind the scenes, OpenRouter has already pre-negotiated enterprise-level data agreements with major providers on behalf of all its users. With a single click in your dashboard, you can enforce a rule that your prompts are strictly routed to these specific, verified endpoints. You receive the same data privacy guarantees as a large corporation without having to spend months negotiating individual enterprise contracts. Zooming out from a single request, we can see the broader impact of routing billions of prompts for millions of users. By standardizing the interface, standardizing how models use external tools, and applying a universal privacy shield, OpenRouter functions as interoperability as a service. Standardization removes the friction of switching. AI providers can no longer rely on unique integrations to keep users captive. Instead, they have to compete directly on their actual per-token price and performance metrics. As AI capabilities expand, running inference is becoming a dominant operational cost for software companies. Since software is moving toward a multi-model standard, a universal gateway becomes a practical necessity. A single point of control for managing the complexity and cost of a fragmented AI market.